From the NFL to Obamacare to who's running for governor of South Carolina, I sit down one-on-one with Reverend Joe Darby for the special edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And be sure to download the free Quintin's Close-Ups app in your Apple or Google Play stores. Reverend Darby,
Quintin,
it is so good to see you.
Always good to see you.
I appreciate this.
Glad to.
Yes, sir.
Glad to.
Well, thank you. You know, I want to rewind time because you and I saw each other last September 25th at the NAACP game.
Oh, yeah, at the game. Wow.
And of course, our featured speaker was former Vice President Joe Biden, that is. And there was like a who's who South Carolinians there.
There was. Grand event, full house.
Yes, indeed. And can you describe to me the range of emotions that were going on your mind at that time?
Well, pleased that the banquet went so well. A lot of work went into it. Pleased with Joe's message. He gave a ringing endorsement to the NAACP and kind of encapsulated the issues of the day. Was proud of him and was glad to be a part of it.
Yeah. And tell me, as we sit here right now, how are you?
Doing well.
Yes.
Busy as usual.
Yeah.
But doing well.
Yeah, that's good to hear. Well, let me turn to the obvious, and this is the headline from the Post and Courier.
Mm-hmm.
It reads this: Pig Wrigley posts out a plan to locate at Shipwatch Square.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, that's right there off of McMillan Avenue or
Right.
Rivers Avenue.
Right.
When you think of Pig Wrigley pulling out a plan, where does your mind go to?
I think that's unfortunate. I would hope it is a bottom line driven decision. I think sometimes the corporates and municipalities have to look at bottom line versus quality of life for the people served. That area is what's called a food desert. There's no place nearby to get what people want. And the more and more people are run off the peninsula by gentrification, the more that gets to be a problem.
And my phone obviously is acting up right now, so I'll just slide this to the side.
Okay.
But let me talk to you about some current national issues. Let me take you to the NFL. Obviously, it's been a debate between the NFL and President Trump over the national anthem, and some players obviously not kneeling and not participating in it. Where are we with this debate right now?
Well, I think we are hampered by an idiot in the White House. That's the first problem. But he's a very shrewd idiot who knows how to drive a conversation. He is doing his best to try to shift away from the issues that the players are protesting, which is the treatment of young African Americans at the hands of law enforcement and related issues of equity, and trying to make it about respecting the flag and respecting the anthem. I would argue that by the way he conducts himself in the office of president, that he is disrespecting America by his behavior.
And let me turn to another debate which is really going on right now on Twitter between him and Florida Representative Frederica Wilson.
Yeah.
And it's over his alleged comments to a young lady, a widow of a United States soldier. When you hear that, where are you emotionally?
I think it's a shame that he's politicized it. And I think it's a shame that he's going after a lady who was standing by and standing with a constituent that she already had a relationship with. And the family of a young man whom she had helped to mentor. I think it's proper for her to do that. I think his choice of words was unfortunate. I think it pretty much goes towards the fact that he is a man who is totally lacking in empathy or care for anyone other than himself. I understand General Kelly's defense of him. I just heard that today.
Right.
But it's interesting that he's saying, I didn't say it, but then the general comes along and says, this is why he said it. And who also says, and he asked me what he should say, which belies his claim that he makes those calls regularly. The president has a detachment with the truth, and that's sad for someone who holds the office of president when he does not function as a president.
Describe to me the following in one word: Santee Cooper and Scanner.
Shameful.
Matter of fact, let's go to that. State House probe on certain current and former lawmakers.
Well, one word would be interesting. I think it's going to be interesting to see who else is caught up in that. Okay. I'm old enough to remember Operation Lost Trust, which caught up an inordinate amount of then African American legislators. It's interesting that thus far, those legislators who have been caught up have not been African American. I don't know if that will hold up through the entire investigation. But I think Solicitor Pasco is doing an even-handed job, and I think that he's exposing some things that need to be exposed.
Phil Noble and James Smith running for governor of South Carolina on the Democratic side.
Should be an interesting battle. Smith is a proficient legislator. Phil is an old friend who is very acquainted with politics. I would hope that it would be a good race that gives us a good candidate. As a private citizen, because pastors can't endorse people, but
Sure.
as a private citizen, I hope it's somebody who can defeat whoever comes out of the catfight they're having on the Republican side.
Obamacare.
Still in effect and can't be destroyed. I think it's a myth that it will go away, number one, because the same people who hollered repeal and replace for 7 years didn't have the foggiest idea of what to do. It's almost like a dog that catches a car after barking and then wonders, what do I do with this thing? They could not do that. They're trying to find a way out of it. And even if they modify it severely, the president's legacy will still be secure, because prior to Obamacare, there was no such thing as national health insurance. Now the only question is what national health insurance should look like.
Tax cuts.
I hope that they are done fairly, and I hope that they are done in a way that benefit the people who need that benefit the most. I have minimal faith that that would happen, but that would be my hope.
You talk about pastors in the previous answer that you gave me.
Mm-hmm.
What is the state of the AME Church right now in your mind?
AME Church is good, and in South Carolina particularly solid. We have a Bishop, Samuel Green, Sam Green he likes to be called. Bishop Sam is what I would call a transformative bishop. He's doing things in different ways. He's digitizing the church, bringing it into the 21st century, sometimes kicking and screaming. He has a good grasp on how to do business and how to interweave that with spirituality. He's reaching out to young adults and doing things in innovative ways. People now are startled across the Episcopal District if their birthday rolls around and they suddenly get a birthday card from the bishop. He knows how to do the little touches. I think he's doing an excellent job.
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
Well, Reverend Joe Darby, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate this.
Thank you, Quintin. It's always fun.
Likewise.
Take care.
Yeah, thank you.
All right.